ago at our Faith at Home Center, there was a New Year's card, kind of a card to make you think about the new year and questions to help shape that. And that was really structured by Don Whitney. He does a lot of stuff with family worship and with spiritual disciplines, a lot of stuff I would recommend for you. But we never have time for it, right? Like, we get into January, and before we know it, we're into February, and the year has taken off, and we're in our schedules. So I wanted to kind of bring that back around because we have more time than ever right now to really pause and to think about our lives spiritually and maybe a direction and game plan for our families going forward. And in this card, it started with Haggai chapter 1, verse 5. And the prophet said, "Consider your ways," to the people of God. It said, "Consider your ways," because the people of God had strayed away from the Lord. They had started seeking other things and not putting God first. And he said, "Consider your ways," which in those words itself means to pause, to stop right now, think about the past and where you want to go, the direction for the future. So that's really what I wanted to share today. And I just want to point out a few things I've noticed and some things I miss and some things we all miss. First, I've noticed during this slowing down that there's a focus on God with family. There's getting outside more. I've seen more families than ever outside, spending time outside. There's families I've never seen outside other than to mow the yard or to check the mail that I've seen outside with their families and with their kids. And that's an encouraging thing, that kids are riding bikes and that families are spending time together and you hear laughter outside. In correlation with that, ironically, I've gotten to know some of my neighbors more. Even though we're socially distanced, with us being outside more, we've gotten to talk across yards and stuff, and as we're walking on the streets and stuff, we've gotten to talk and interact and get to know one another better. So that's just something that's happened as a result of this. I've gotten to see neighbors put up crosses. I think there's 2 or 3 I can see just from my yard, not including my own. So we see what people are holding on to during this time. When everything else is let go, holding on to a faith in Jesus Christ during Holy Week. And we got to realize not everybody that put up a cross may be going to a church. This is a person that knows about Jesus, that may know a little bit about the story. They might not even be a Christian, but just think it might be the right thing to do. So this is still, everybody, including with crosses, somebody to reach and to invite. I've enjoyed the creativeness, and we've talked a lot about that, but just the creative ways that people have reached one another. Using technology, maybe stepping out of their comfort zones to learn something new. I have. And it's something that's taught me some lessons and some things I want to continue. And I hope it has for you. Just crafts and activities at home, maybe picking up a hobby that you've let go. And you have time to do that now. So just a lot of good positive things in creativeness. There's a lot of good stories that are out there. I love just hearing the creative, good ways that people are showing love to one another. We can be focused so much on, if you watch a lot of the headline news, you're going to be depressed. They're going to the worst spots and showing you the reality in some places, but it's not the reality everywhere. And if you just watch that all the time, you're not going to be in a good place, I assure you. I've enjoyed seeing beautiful photographs of blue skies and city outlines that I've never seen in places in the world that have also never seen them. Not in my lifetime. The pollution's been too great, and it's kind of showed us as we've stepped back, have stopped this, kind of our imprint, the world's imprint, and how we as humans can make the world a better place. I want it better for my kids. I want the care of creation to be even better, my generation, to preserve it for the next generation. So that's something positive I've seen and something maybe we can learn from. And maybe all of those are great. Maybe more than all of those is I've enjoyed the great pause of just times to be in the presence of God, to just read his word and to really think about the message, to really think about the words of the hymns I'm actually singing. We've had time to slow down, and that's really hard in our culture. We don't like to slow down. I mean, maybe let's say we like to do it, but our schedules don't show that, and our planner doesn't show that. Our calendar never shows that. It shows one event on top of another, and we're stressed. We don't know how to fit it all in, and maybe we're not doing any of those well. So that's usually how things go. And but there are things that I miss. There's things that we miss, man. Just the rhythms of life, and just we took for granted so much. I realized we took for granted just the fellowship of being together face to face, of just going out to eat and just having a good time and laughing and seeing people that you love. We've missed and just taken for granted the family gatherings, birthday parties, graduations, barbecues, things that we really, really like. Just the schedule of sports and stuff. March Madness, the Masters, baseball. Y'all know I love baseball. Really missing that right now. And it really takes us a step back thinking, why? What brings us joy about that? We take for granted the medical professionals, and that in their in their work, in the line of duty all the time, that they risk exposure to themselves, not just from this, but throughout the year. So really appreciative of them, and thankful to see a lot of folks showing appreciation for them. Just foundationally, in our worship, we take for granted that we can meet together and that we're going to see each other. We take for granted passing during communion, passing the cup, passing the bread, to our brother and sister in Christ. We just take those for granted. We take for granted singing in unison praises to God in one room. Those are things that I've taken for granted. I hope we never take for granted again. Now, I wanted to get just to the final part, my devotion today. I've heard a lot of people say, I just want things normal again. I want it to go back to normal. I just want, what we had a few months ago, I want that. And at first, kind of my reaction is to say, me too, but then I stop and I really think back, okay, I don't exactly want everything that was the old normal. Our old normal was very hectic, very exhausted, very, just as a country, divisive on all sorts of issues. And now we get to see more acts of generosity and love just throughout, not just Christians, but everyone. Maybe the question we need to ask is, what do I want my new normal to be? What do I want the new normal to be? And how can I be a part of it? So I want you to just take some time during this time we have, during this pause, and just think about it and pray deeply about it. What are the things you want to bring back? What are the things that we need to consider our ways? That the prophet, what would they say? We need to consider our ways. What I realized when all these things go away, what did everyone focus in on? It was faith. It was faith. All the other things we kind of center our lives around that were taken away, that were canceled, can't take faith away. Can't take our worship and prayer of God away. And that's what people focused in on. That's foundational. Sometimes we live kind of flip-flopped. We focus in on all these other things that are just on a schedule. And then at the end, we get exhausted and don't have time for things like faith, like being consistent in our worship gatherings. Maybe being consistent in family time, just putting the phone down and spending some time outside with our families, creating memories. Those are things we have gone back to, I think have been really good for society right now. But they shouldn't just happen with a pandemic. This should be something that we can continue to do. Just putting a cross in the yard and sharing your faith shouldn't just happen during these few months that we have. It really takes us back to the Great Commandment and the Great Commission to love God, love one another, and serve the world and share the love of Jesus Christ and really what we stand for as a church. That's what it's brought us back to. So finally, my final thought. There are many good things that we had in the old way of doing things. There are many good things, but maybe they weren't the best things, and we don't have time in our schedules for so many good things. I had to realize this as a teenager. My parents came to me, and I was involved in a lot of good things. I was involved in several sports, in music, academically, youth, how much homework and stuff you have. I had that going on. I had scouts. I had so much going on. And they basically came and said, we can't do this. Something has to give. Something. And I didn't want to hear that at that moment. So I had to sit down, and just like I told you, I had to prioritize. Now, with my family, non-negotiable was going to church and being involved and being part of youth. Being at worship on Sunday. That was non-negotiable. The rest of it was up to me. So I sat down and just prioritized those things. That I loved being a band, that I loved baseball, that there are several things I loved, do not want to let go. But then there were other sports that I was involved with. There was scouts. There were things that were good that I couldn't continue anymore. And that gave me more freedom. That gave me more pause in my life, and that actually helped. When I look back now, I'm grateful that we had that moment of just centering on the things that first, foundational, putting those at the top, and then maybe finding the one or two things that you really love, that you want to stay involved with, but then finding the other things that you can let go. It's not the number one. It's not even in the top 5 of what you want to do. So it's okay. So think about those. Think about your priorities. Take time right now before things go back, so it doesn't go back to a new normal, that you have a brand new and better normal than before. God bless.